my God, these lights are bright. Wow. I am Covey Rose. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Sydney, and God, it's good to be here tonight. How you all doing? Woo! That's what I like to hear. Love it. So today, I'm going to be infusing this evening with everyone's favorite form of stand-up comedy, physics. Yeah, the woos have left the building. It's fine. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm not that sort of physicist. I'm an astrophysicist, right? That means that I get to tell you all about galaxies and stars. And you have no idea if I'm making it all up. So, for example, I could tell you that most stars in the universe, they're either giants or dwarfs. And yeah, I can see a few people nodding their heads. They're like, yeah, I knew that, sure. But I could just as easily have said that most stars in the universe are either wizards or house elves. Yeah, and you'd kind of had to go along with it. So specifically, the stars that I study are called brown dwarfs because they're red. They're reddish, brownish, kind of maroon. I don't know. I don't get to name these things, unfortunately. In fact, the most common questions that I tend to get, especially from my younger nieces and nephews, is, have you found any cool stars? What are you going to name the stars when you find them? And when are you going to space, Uncle Covey? Okay, so as some of you in the audience might know, astronomers tend to not really get to name their stars. Stars are named according to the telescope that finds them and their coordinates. So this star, for example, with this wonderful, fantastic, very interesting name, was found by the WISE telescope at these coordinates. This is an ultra-cool brown dwarf star. Will be relevant for later. Regarding that other question about going to space, unless somebody in the audience has a spare $250,000 to send me on whatever phallic rocket Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have come up with recently, yeah, that's not happening. Speaking of size, the sizes and distances of objects in space, they're kind of overwhelming for some people. We kind of don't understand the units and it's really hard to fathom. One American journalist decided that instead the best way to measure the sizes of near-Earth asteroids would be to use penguins and flamingos. That's real, seriously. Americans will do anything to avoid using the metric system. I can't. Gosh. Speaking of things that are totally made up, Astrology! Yeah! Oh, ooh. Some people are probably thinking, wait, I thought he said he was an astrologer. No, I'm an astronomer. We are not the same. In fact, one of my big frustrations at social events and parties, people often come up to me and they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, an astronomer. And they're like, oh, cool. Can you tell me about my star sign? Tell me about my horoscope? Yeah, I got nothing. I'm exactly the wrong target audience for those questions, which is a shame, because I feel like I could be fun at parties. Maybe. I should say, full disclosure, I am a Gemini, which of course means absolutely nothing. There's probably some woman in the back with a nose ring and a butterfly tattoo thinking, oh my God, that's such a Gemini thing to say. Totally. But yeah, it doesn't really mean anything except for maybe the fact that my parents were either very bored or very careless in September of '91. But that's a story for another night. Anyway, so I use radio telescopes to study these dwarf stars, and most recently we were studying this ultra-cool dwarf star, like I mentioned earlier. Now it's cool as in temperature, but it's also kind of like vibes cool. It was doing a lot of like wacky things. And I'll give this to you guys as an example of kind of how irrelevant astrology is to my life. See, well, before I go on, it's very important for the Americans in the audience to know how cool is cool. So in American units, the temperature that the same American journalist decided is 5 cups of coffee. Precisely. Anyway, we were working on this star for like 6 months, right? We're getting these weird periodic bursts coming from it. And we studied the periodicity and the signal, and we looked at circularly polarized light. That's when the light goes, ooh! It's a weird thing, I know. Now the light was polarized, we looked at different telescopes, and what we found, well, I have to say, we published a paper on it, again, with this like weird name. I would have named it something like this. But I wasn't allowed. Anyway, after working on this paper for like 6 months, it was only a week or two after it was published that I found out that this ultra-cool dwarf star is in the unicorn constellation. I know, right? I had no idea that that was a thing. Did anyone here heard of the unicorn constellation? Yeah, neither, right? That's a real thing. Officially, its name is Monoceros. Mono, of course, meaning one, and ceros meaning unicorn butts, or horn, or something like that. I don't know. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is astronomy is good. Astronomy is real, right? It's a science. It tells us things that we'd like to know. Astrology, not so much, not really. You're probably wondering, well, what is real, right? What's a star even? How does that work? What even is an ultra-cool dwarf? All right, so a star, right? A star forms from these huge clouds of gas in outer space, of hydrogen gas. And for the more cultured members of the audience, you might recognize this from Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, or whatever other underwritten and overproduced piece of crap came out of the MCU most recently. I know they're still going. Still going. Anyway, so these atoms get all clumped together, and gravity pulls them in, and they get tighter and tighter and more packed in, until they're more densely packed than a Woolies shopping bag when you've decided, I'm not paying another 25 cents for another shopping bag. You just refuse, outright. So when this happens, what you end up with is nuclear fusion, right? All of these hydrogen atoms get denser and denser and more tightly packed in, and they're under so much pressure from gravity that they eventually collapse. Kind of the same way that I collapsed under pressure in year 9 when Robbie McKinley told me that I would look cool if I smoked cigarettes. Nothing could make that kid look cool. Nothing. Anyway, this is how stars live, right? Our sun, for example, for billions of years will continue to pull hydrogen in through gravity, fuse it together, nuclear fusion, form helium, and that creates the force that pushed outwards. And if that makes sense to you, congratulations, you're an astrophysicist, yay! Or at least as much of an astrophysicist as those who believe that small metal spheres found at the bottom of the ocean are signs of alien visitors. Yeah, I can see if that reference didn't totally make sense to you, come to me after the show and I'll tell you all about a certain Harvard professor and his tiny balls. Sorry, the tiny metal balls that he found. What am I saying? I think people shouldn't be disparaged about the way that I'm speaking about, aliens. It's not that we astronomers don't want them to exist, or don't think that statistically they do exist. We do. It's just the evidence hasn't really convinced us yet. I mean, we see these things, we see weird things, for sure. But nothing conclusive, nothing that's really telling us, oh, yeah, this is a sign, this was real. I mean, growing up, I feel like we all heard these same stories, right? A bunch of farmers in the Midwest in America, they get drunk, they get kidnapped, and turns out they get anally probed. I know, right? I understand these days we do not kink shame, it's fine. But I think the thing that we have to consider is our Milky Way, right? Our Milky Way galaxy. It has over 100 billion stars, and on average, each of those stars has a planet. But this galaxy, our galaxy, is just one of hundreds of billions of galaxies, right? So that means that what you end up with is a million, billion galaxies, stars, and therefore a similar number of planets. And we're obnoxious enough to think that we're the only ones that have life, right? We decide to name one woman Miss Universe. Local universe, fine, that I could handle. I mean, I shouldn't complain about that aspect of the show. It's probably not the most problematic aspect of the Miss Universe competition. But I like to think about these questions a lot. It's what I do for work. And I'm not talking about thinking of shitty reality TV show that's slightly misogynistic. It's more about thinking of the existential questions of the aliens. Where are they? And once you kind of get over the initial existential dread and panic of how small our place is in the universe, I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. But you're probably wondering, and I'll leave you with this thought, why is it that the aliens haven't contacted us? And I think the answer to that question is quite simple. See, the first message that we send out to the rest of the universe, the first thing that these aliens will ever have seen, is on the Horizons probe and the Voyager probe that we sent into space. So basically, unsolicited dick pics. I've been Coffee Rose. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.